This is Colin Donahue. Today is October 9th, 2020, and we are approaching what is traditionally called flu season. And no doubt there's going to be confusion over people getting the normal flu versus this particular new strain of coronavirus labeled COVID-19, and that confusion is undoubtedly going to be utilized to supposedly justify the continuation, if not expansion, of governmental control and micromanagement of people's lives, down to the bodily level. So again, returning to the mask mandate issue and the real possibility that that could escalate to, vaccine requirements. So, in case you don't see that coming, well, a lot of us do. It's pretty obvious that they're just trying to, stretch out this mandate to continue on until flu season, where it'll then be more supposedly, justifiable, right? Because then they can put new spikes in the charts, right? New higher numbers of cases, right? To then put people, back into a state of fear and obedience to whatever the mandate is in order to, fight this war against this unseen enemy. So, or this, invisible enemy. I'm sure many of you are like, well, when people get sick and die, you can see that. I get it, but you know what I'm saying? It's invisible when you're out and about, right? You can't actually see it with your own eyes, okay? What I wanted to talk about here is the issue of theoretical versus actual violence. Again, I want to expand on a point I made in the previous audio on that, when I talked about, the mandate itself being an act of aggression and supposedly being justified because of the theoretical harm that you could be doing, right? You could theoretically have a virus, and then that could theoretically transmit to someone else, and then that person could possibly get symptoms, and then that person could possibly get worse and die, right? So all these possibilities versus what's actually being done, which is an act of aggression, which is controlling people's bodies, making medical decisions for them, right? So the other level of that, which I touched on, but is definitely worth highlighting, is that when something is a mandate, right, that's aggressive in itself, right? Like I've been saying, because you're controlling someone against their will if they don't agree with the mandate. But it goes further than that, and it's more drastic than that, because if a person resists a law, right, or resists a mandate, law enforcement has the authority to make you comply to the point of using deadly force against you. In other words, if you resist the law or the mandate, it's accepted, by mainstream society, by the legal system, by the government, that the law enforcement officer or officers can kill you. Like they can take your life because you did not comply with whatever the law was. And so even if the law was over something, or the mandate was over something that we would normally not consider a life and death matter, or something that you would, kill someone over, it can actually quickly escalate to that level, and it has many times. There's countless examples of people being killed by police over, a traffic violation or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like something where the person wasn't doing something that you would normally think, killing someone would be the appropriate response. That has actually happened many times, and it is considered acceptable, right, by the judicial system. Because if you're resisting arrest, then the officer then can take whatever means they basically deem necessary in order to make you comply, right? If you keep resisting, they'll, if you keep escalating your resistance, they'll keep escalating their violence towards you, to make you comply, to the point of death, to the point of killing you. So this is, again, why a mandate is no small thing, right? It's no small thing, first of all, because it's idolizing a certain group of people as, superior in intelligence and morality, and so they can therefore dictate preventative healthcare measures for you now and for eternity, right? Like that is flawed. But then on top of that, you're saying that if you don't comply with that flawed premise, you additionally can be killed over it. So it's like you not only have to blindly accept, preemptive healthcare measures by whoever is deemed the authority, which is wrong, but then on top of that, if you don't, we can kill you, which is even worse. What does that mandate mean? What is the precedent being set, right? The precedent being set is whoever the authority figures are, whoever happens to, be at the podium, on your TV that month and that year, whatever they say about preventative healthcare measures, you just have to do. You just have to do it. That's it. Just, they're the expert, they're the authority, you have to comply, right? So it's just this appeal to authority. Well, they're the authority. And like I've, said multiple times, that isn't legitimate. You can't just say someone has the right to control your body and your medical choices just because they call themselves an authority, right? That's making them your master, right? You're becoming subservient to someone. You're becoming, their property. They own your body. If they can control your body, they own your body, and that's not legitimate. And preemptive attack is not legitimate, as I explained thoroughly in my last audio. But so I just, in this audio, want to make clear, how serious a mandate is, right? And so if you're taking it lightly and you're just focusing on, oh, well, I think wearing a mask is a good idea, you're missing the point. You're missing my whole, you're missing what millions of people like myself are trying to communicate, which is that the mandate itself is unethical, it's dangerous. Even if the, even if they were mandating everyone take vitamin C, right? I think that's actually a good idea. Like, I'm not going to disagree with the idea that vitamin C is a good thing. But I do disagree with, even if they mandated vitamin C, I'd be against that. You understand? Because it's the premise that they have the authority to control your body and make medical decisions for you, right? You might think the mask is not such a big deal, but how do you know that the next idea isn't going to be something you disagree with, right? Like if the vitamin C mandate came out, I might be like, well, I actually agree with that. I think, yeah, that's smart. Vitamin C is proven to improve health, right? That would be a naive thing to just agree with and be fine with, because I'm ignoring the mandate aspect of it, right? I'm ignoring the fact that it's setting the precedent that they can mandate whatever they want just because they are the authority, and it's a crapshoot. Like, maybe today it's a good idea, but how do you know tomorrow it won't be, right? Again, it's this idolizing, it's this perfect faith that they will never make a mistake. And I was thinking of, there's so many historical examples where they clearly were mistaken, right? Like the spraying of DDT, in the 50s, right? Water fluoridation. I just happened to be going through one of my dictionaries. I wasn't looking up the word sodium fluoride, but I just happened to notice it as I was scanning through the page. And this was the definition right out of my dictionary, which is an actual book. I'm not, don't rely on internet sources of dictionaries, especially nowadays where they're changing definitions to fit, whatever the latest trend is. So the actual definition for sodium fluoride is a poisonous crystalline salt. And then the best was like, semicolon, used in water fluoridation. So it's like, first part of the definition, it's a poison. Second part, oh yeah, and this is what they put in the water. So, right, a known poison, right? And it's also been proven to lower IQ in children in particular, right? This is what they're prescribing for, millions of people. And you're just supposed to accept it, right? Because they're the authority, right? They're the expert. They're spraying kids with, toxic chemical as they're in a public pool, you can see video of that. Spraying DDT on children, right? Well, they know best, right? They're the authority, whatever, and if you resist, if you say, hey, I don't want you spraying me with that, or I don't want you putting this poison in my water, well then you're the bad guy according to the statist, dogma, right? Because it basically comes down to this belief that whatever authority deems is correct. Whatever they say is good, right? Your whole morality and your whole sense of right and wrong and what's true and false is all dictated to you by whatever they say, basically, right? Whatever the news tells you. They're just asking you to not even believe common sense, right? Like the 9/11 Commission report telling you to believe that, WTC in 1 and 2, the Twin Towers just came straight down due to those impacts by the planes, right, and jet fuel, even though they're clearly controlled demolition. And then even more clear is, Building 7, which wasn't even hit by a plane, right, coming straight down, free fall, classic controlled demolition. And we're supposed to believe this scientific nonsense about, due to fires, it just came down perfectly in its own footprint, symmetrically. It just defies common sense. It defies all known previous fires of steel frame buildings. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're basically asking you to just turn off your brain, right? So don't use any intelligence or scientific method whatsoever. Just, well, hey, we're telling you it was jet fuel and these planes, so just go with it. We're the authority. Don't question. And if you do question, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, right? And then there's another commission report, right? The Warren Commission with JFK, right? Asking you to disbelieve your own eyes, right? Like as highlighted in the movie, right? You can see the motion of his head, etc. And they're telling you, oh no, it was just this guy up there, and that's how it happened, So, that's the problem, is when you become so much of an idol worshiper, where you're willing to disregard your own common sense, right? You're willing to disregard your own ability to discern and, make an intelligent decision or evaluation of something. You're just outsourcing your own intelligence, right? You're just turning off your own brain to just accept whatever you're told, right? So it's just disempowering on multiple levels, and it's just ethically wrong on multiple levels to accept mandates in the name of safety, preemptive attacks in the name of safety, medical interventions by so-called experts, who again, you may agree with whatever the mandate is today, but what if you don't agree with it tomorrow? Or what if you don't agree with how long they decide this has to go on, right? I mean, this mask mandate has been going on ridiculously long. I remember when there was memes going around about, hopefully this mask mandate will be over on the 4th of July, so, I can celebrate my freedom. And I remember when that meme first came out, I didn't think, I thought, I thought it was funny because it was like, oh yeah, there's no way it's actually going to last until the 4th of July. And then, but then it did, and then it went well beyond that, right? Now we're into October. So, again, and why is that, right? Why is it that we have to accept bodily control and medical intervention and our medical decisions being made for us, and whatever numbers they throw at us, we just have to trust whatever they say their tests are revealing. We just have to believe it. Why do we have to submit to never-ending trust and never-ending obedience, which is coupled with accepting never-ending abuse, right? Because this is aggression, right? Controlling our lives, coercing us to do medical procedures and utilize certain medical devices, whether we agree with it or not. That is aggressive. It is, right? And like I've given the examples before, if I were to just go up to someone on the street and start dictating to them, preventative health care that they needed to begin immediately, and, how close they could stand to their coworkers or friends or lovers or whoever, you know what I'm saying? Like, people would reject that outright. They would say, well, who are you, right? Like, you can't tell me what to do, right? So, but that same mindset, just like you would reject me doing that to you if I came up to you on the street and started dictating all of these medical procedures for you and preventative health care measures, just as you would reject that from me, you should reject it from anybody, right? Just because another man is on the TV, that doesn't make it legit. Just because another man has a fancy suit doesn't make it legit. And the only way it could be legit in your mind is if you idolize that man, right? The other part of it too is you might say, well, I don't particularly idolize these particular men and women, but I think we need to have, law and order. I agree that, not all these politicians and so-called experts are really so upstanding and perfect, but it's better than nothing, right? And so this is like the main subconscious or subliminal blunder, right? You think that some people having a monopoly on force, some people having this authority to just basically commit aggression against people because they think it's a good idea, because for whatever reason that they give, you think that's better than no one having that power. But that doesn't actually make sense, right? And that's why anarchism actually makes sense. No ruler is actually better than some ruler, right? It all comes back to recognizing, yeah, people are imperfect, right? People are corrupted by power. People have, bad ideas, or just believe things that aren't true, or have bad intentions. Yeah, that's true. That's exactly why having a small group of people have special rights and powers over everyone else is dangerous. That's why it's more dangerous than if we didn't have that arrangement, right? Just like I don't have the power to dictate the health choices of people on the street. That's good, right? It's good I don't have that power. And it would be good if no one did. You understand? It's not better to give some people the power to be violent whenever they think being violent is a good idea. We'd actually be better off if we didn't delegate such powers to people, right? And stuck with the non-aggression principle. And then whoever violates the non-aggression principle can be dealt with, right? But if you make it so that, well, this certain group of people are an exception to the rule, and if they commit aggression against us, there's nothing we can do about it, how is that a safer world? How is that a better world? It's not. And history shows exactly that. So, that's the key insight that needs to be understood, right? A lot of people dismiss libertarian and anarchists viewpoints, the main fundamental perspective, because they think it's naive. The irony is your belief in whatever group of people is currently deemed the authority being legitimate and necessary for a safe and peaceful and just world, that's what's naive. Like your idolatry is naive. You understand? Well, I hope you do. I hope this at least helps somebody understand what I'm talking about here. And it's not just me, right? There's other folks making these points as well, but I just wanted to expand on that point of why a mandate is much more serious than you may be making it out to be. And whether you think the mandate is a good one or a bad one, you need to focus on whether the mandate itself, regardless of what it is legit or not. Whether giving people the power to mandate over entire populations is a good idea or not. And like I've been saying, it's not. It's clearly not a good idea. All right, thanks for listening.